does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145. Yeah. In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk-around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports.
The press conference for the Gervonta Davis vs. Jake Paul fight quickly spiraled out of control, turning a normal promotional event into a heated clash. Davis lost his cool when asked why he picked Paul over higher-ranked fighters, while Paul fired back by taunting him about his personal life and past. The exchange grew so intense that officials had to step in to stop things from getting worse.
Box, and truly when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer, and I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he's going to outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global, for you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
From the very start, tension filled the room. Jake Paul, towering at 6 feet 1 inch, stood over the much shorter 5 feet 5 inches Gervonta Davis, highlighting the size difference that's fueled pre-fight buzz. Paul played up the advantage, claiming his reach and power would easily keep Davis under control. But Davis, a lightweight champion used to facing taller rivals, fired back with confidence, saying his speed and skill would erase any talk about size once the fight begins. A major talking point leading up to the fight has been the huge size gap between the two. Many fans and media figures have criticized the matchup as unbalanced or even a publicity stunt. Gervonta Davis, an undefeated lightweight champion, is stepping in against Jake Paul, a social media star turned boxer who normally fights at much heavier weights. Since the fight is classified as an exhibition rather than a professional title bout, it has only fueled more questions about its credibility.
The fight, but yeah. That was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul, was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch, they fought.
Jake Paul is known for turning everything into a show, and this press conference was no different. It was designed for viral moments, from clown jokes and shoving matches to digs about legal issues. The whole scene felt more like a reality TV showdown than a serious boxing event. Many reports described it as loud and chaotic, but ultimately empty, delivering more drama than genuine insight into the upcoming fight.
Boxing perspective. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nikisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a...
Keith Thurman highlighted an interesting irony. The critics who constantly bash Gervonta Davis are actually boosting his fame. He pointed out that the same people who say Davis isn't that good are the ones who always watch his fights. By giving him their time and attention, even through negativity, they're helping keep his name in the spotlight. Thurman believes their criticism only strengthens Davis's popularity, turning his haters into unintentional promoters.
With Tank, first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion. For entertainment, don't do this at home, kids. So fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only, So, it's money-making purposes only,
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when criticizing the recent wave of mismatched exhibition fights, including Jake Paul's planned bout with Mike Tyson. He said Paul should stop facing retired athletes and instead prove himself against real, active boxers. While acknowledging Paul's talent for promotion and the buzz he brings to boxing, Smith made it clear that true respect comes only from taking on legitimate competition. He also weighed in after the controversial majority draw between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach in March, praising Davis's composure and champion mindset. Smith dismissed the backlash against Davis, noting that his calm acceptance of a rematch showed confidence and a genuine desire to prove his dominance in the sport.
Is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better be a Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he gonna say, I don't need Canelo, Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about pop.
Stephen A. Smith went as far as ranking Gervonta "Tank" Davis among the top 3 boxers in the world, praising his strength, precision, and knockout ability. He contrasted that with Jake Paul, a YouTuber-turned-boxer still new to the sport. Smith argued that a seasoned world champion like Davis facing someone with Paul's limited experience could hurt his credibility. In his view, the matchup doesn't reflect Tank's elite status, and he bluntly stated that Davis should feel embarrassed to take such a fight. Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight on Netflix will attract massive attention, especially from younger American viewers. He noted that while the Canelo vs. Crawford bout will strongly appeal to Mexican and Latin American fans, the Paul Davis exhibition is likely to draw a larger U.S. audience, particularly those under 20. In Romero's view, both fights help expand boxing's popularity overall, which benefits the sport. He acknowledged that Canelo vs. Crawford is the better matchup in terms of pure boxing quality, but sees Paul vs. Davis as having greater mainstream reach in the U.S.
Who will win in this fight? Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question. And I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win. Because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think. You got
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. That weight class is for a reason.
Davis
that weight class is for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205
That's what I'm
pounds,
saying.
dog.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70 pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. A 135 pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30 pound difference, bro. If you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30 pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what I feel.
WBC lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson didn't hold back when addressing the hype around Gervonta Davis' exhibition with Jake Paul. He called the matchup disrespectful to boxing and said that if Davis really wants to earn respect, he should fight real contenders, not entertainers. Confident in his own abilities, Stevenson declared himself the best in the division and challenged Davis to prove his status by stepping into the ring with him instead.
What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I said.
Former heavyweight contender Eddie Chambers warned Jake Paul that facing Gervonta Davis will be unlike anything he's experienced before. He explained that Paul's previous opponents haven't truly tested him, while Davis combines speed, knockout power, and high-level ring intelligence, skills Paul has rarely encountered. Chambers pointed out that most of Paul's wins came against older or less seasoned fighters, but Davis is an elite competitor on a completely different level. He said Paul will need to raise his performance dramatically or risk being exposed once the pressure is on.
Something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing and what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is gonna feel something from him. And it ain't gonna be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that. But he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. You know, it's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out or, you know.
The upcoming fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has drawn heavy backlash from critics who see it as entertainment rather than real boxing. Many argue that the matchup is driven by money and online attention instead of genuine competition. They've labeled it a flashy, profit-focused spectacle that undermines boxing's core values of skill, discipline, and legacy. To them, this trend represents a troubling move away from the sport's proud traditions and the respect that once defined it.
I'm not a fan of this matchup at all. You got Gervonta Davis, who's been eating county jail spreads for the last month and a half, and he didn't look good in his last fight against Roach, where he had a draw, but most people felt like he got his ass tapped, so he needs the money. Then you got Jake Paul, who gets to beat on a nigga a whole foot shorter than him and 100 pounds lighter than him. And I think this is just nasty work. This screams money grab. And then you know what? The fans lose in the end on this one. Netflix wins, Jake Paul wins, and Tank wins. We lose.
Promoter Eddie Hearn was among the harshest critics of the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight, saying it blurs the line between real sport and pure entertainment. He argued that when boxing focuses more on spectacle than competition, it loses its essence. Hearn views the bout not as a serious contest but as a business move designed for views and paper sales rather than athletic achievement. Many share his concern, calling the matchup a huge mismatch since Paul usually fights around 200 pounds while Davis competes at 135. Critics see this as unfair weight bullying that damages boxing's integrity, comparing it to staged entertainment rather than a genuine fight. Still, some defend Davis, saying he's smart to chase a big payday and isn't pretending this fight is about pleasing traditional boxing fans.
Jake Paul, shouldn't he?
No, he shouldn't.
You don't think? Sorry. So, I thought we were all unanimous here. You think Jake Paul beats Gervonta Davis?
70 pounds is 70 pounds.
Gervonta Davis is very small. 5'5".
He's tiny, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Jake Paul,
he's a little man.
If Jake Paul's tucking up,
move on,
and absorbing punishment for walking forward.
Do you think the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul fight brings excitement and new fans to boxing, or does it push the sport further away from its true roots? Share your thoughts in the comments below.